welcome to my YouTube video. My name is Suzanne Bryan and I am a TKGA certified master hand knitter. And in this video I'm going to describe how to sew on a patch pocket. This is in conjunction with an article in the winter 2021-22 Cast On magazine that is a benefit to the Knitting Guild Association members, or TKGA, and I'll put a link on how to get into that below this video. So in that article I describe how to create patch pockets on the right side of the work for a horizontal pocket and a vertical pocket. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to sew on the vertical patch. So I have a patch right here, and I have a piece of fabric that I'm going to sew it onto. And I've marked the area with some waste yarn where I want to apply this patch pocket. So we'll start out by putting some yarn on your needle. Now, how much yarn are you going to need? I generally take, for this type of a seam, I will lay my yarn around the area I want to seam and then give myself a few extra inches, and that usually works out pretty good. So we're going to be using the mattress stitch, the horizontal mattress stitch, to connect these two pieces of fabric together. And let me get big here for you. So we're going to start, you can either start on the fabric or you can start on the patch. It doesn't really matter. It's personal preference. You can try it both ways. And I highly recommend that you do a little experiment and create one of these patches. Create a swatch and try this out. And then you can follow along. So we're going to start right down here by connecting to these stitches here from these stitches. This is the cast on edge. So I'm going to start on this piece here. I'm going to come up right here. And I'm going to leave a tail. Then I'm going to find the cast on edge here, and I'm going to come under the selvage stitch, which is right here, under both strands of that first stitch above the cast on, which is the selvage. I'm coming through it. And then I'm going to go down in the same place where I came up, and I'm going to go into the center of the next stitch. Then I'm going to go under the next stitch. I'm going directly under the stitch, both legs of this stitch right here, right above the cast on edge. And I'm going to go down where I came up and up in the center of the next stitch. And I'm going to work my way across the row, going under the legs of the stitch right above the cast on, down and up, across the row. And I'll meet you at the end of the row. So you can see we've got little V's here, right? So I'll be right back. Okay, you can see here that I've worked all the way across. And if we look closely, we can see that my seaming stitches, let me get a little pointer here. There's my seaming stitches. They follow in line with these columns of stitches. And they also follow in line with these columns of stitches, so that when I pull, I'm going to hold onto the tail here. When I pull this tight, I'm just pulling on it. The columns of stitches line up, and if we take our little waste yarn thread out here, so it's no longer in the way, Let's pull our seaming thread tight here. You can see how the columns of stitches match up, and if this pocket were the same color as the fabric that I'm sewing it onto, it would look like one uniform piece of fabric. So now let's work our way up the side here. I pulled my... Now we're going to work our way up the side. What we're going to use is we're going to use this slipped stitch selvage edge. On that, if we look at the wrong side of the fabric, if we look at the wrong side of the pocket, we can identify the bumps. There's a bump for every slipped stitch selvage edge. And because it's a slipped stitch, there's one bump every other row. And so we're going to be seaming every other row of this to every other row of this. So let's do that. So right now, our seaming thread, we just finished the bottom here. This is our waist yarn. This is the seaming thread right here. Just finished this last stitch, so I'm going to go ahead and seam into the middle of this V right here to start. Now I'm going to come under here and I'm going to find this bump right here. I'm going to skip 2 rows. That means I'm going to skip a strand and go up to this one. Then I'm going to come up to the next. And I'm going to go skip a strand, go to the next one. So it's every other row. Now I'm going to pull it up tight and see what it looks like. And you can see how it's going to join here. Looks good, doesn't it? So I'm going to continue doing that. I'm going to continue going under the bump that's associated with the selvage stitch. And it's always good to do this practice on a swatch first because you'll get the hang of it rather than on your garment. Again, we got some stitches done. We'll pull those up. It just slides perfectly in. Isn't that cool? If you've seen this done before, let me know. Leave a comment down below. I always love to hear from my viewers. And you'll be sure to want to check out the article in Cast On Magazine. This is just the first of a series of articles that I'm doing about pockets. So I started with the simplest pocket first. So we're going to pull this up. Let's look at it big. So now we've got the bottom and the side. Doesn't that look pretty? Very, very pretty. So now we're going to do the top, and the top is just like the bottom, only in reverse. And this bind-off edge will be curled under, so we're not going to see it. So here we go. I'm going to start by, we're going to be going under both legs here of this stitch. We're going under both legs of the stitch just below my outline. And then I'm going to actually turn this upside down. I'm going to go under both legs here. Then we'll go under here, under these 2 legs, Let me make this a little bit bigger. Sorry about the shakiness today. Sometimes my hands, I just get shaky. I hate it. Wait till you get older. It might happen to you too. I hope it doesn't. And I'm just going under, following in the same pattern. Let me work across and I'll come back once I've come to the end. So here I've worked across the top of the pocket. It goes like this. And I'm going to pull these threads up tight because I need to work a few more stitches. And again, we can see how the columns fit right into the columns. Let me get that corner stitch a little bit tighter. There we go. And we're going to continue on. Get the last few on here. So you can see that the bind off edge is completely hidden underneath the seam. In the article that will be following this article in the next issue of Cast On magazine, I'm going to demonstrate how to do a knitted on pocket. Very similar to this. There are some advantages and disadvantages. So here we have our pocket, patch pocket, sewn on. Looks really good. Now I would steam it a little bit. In fact, let's look at this one here. This one's same thing, been steamed. You can see how it looks on the front and the back. Very invisible. You can hardly even see the seaming thread, except for here where I did the every other row. Isn't that gorgeous? So, if you like my videos, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do. And I'll see you next time. Happy knitting!